What's your emergency?
Hello, my name is Barry Fury, and I'm here today to talk to you about a very important subject. If you are involved in public safety, we may have responded to the same incidents in one of the three states where I served as a fire officer, or we may have managed emergencies together in any of the four states that I directed 911 centers. Maybe we cooperated on national committees, or perhaps I worked on a project you know as a consultant. You may have even attended one of my training sessions or seminars. If not, you may still know of me from one of my books or the more than 300 articles I published during my 50-plus year career. If you are an average citizen, you likely will not know me at all, but I'm hoping that the credentials I've mentioned suggest that I have at least some credibility. All these things can be easily confirmed by a quick Google search. That being said, I'm not here today to talk about me, but rather to you about the emergency at 911. For decades, people have been calling 911 for help. Today, those tables have been turned. 911 desperately needs your help. For emergency communication centers, as well as the dedicated people who work there, this is a time of crisis. For starters, the existing analog technology that we rely upon has been in place since the 1960s. Suffice it to say, the telephones of that era don't resemble or work the same way as the ones that now call us over 240 million times a year. The good news is that we are on the cusp of an almost complete nationwide equipment replacement that will address the current deficiencies. The bad news is that this next generation 911, as it is called, will take time and money to complete. The worst news, however, is that you can't have next generation 911 without the next generation of 911 telecommunicators, the term used for those who answer and dispatch emergency calls. The internet is full of stories about these calls not being answered in a timely manner or not being answered at all. The simple fact is that there are more calls than there are people to answer them. Cell phones exacerbate the problem when minor but visible incidents are seen simultaneously by a number of concerned citizens who all dial at once. I recently called 911 concerning an obviously impaired driver. I won't say where, but it rang for over 2.5 minutes before it was answered. By that time, I lost track of the vehicle. Hopefully, no one was impacted by this delay, but can you imagine waiting that long for an answer if you found your child at the bottom of a pool or your spouse or loved one was having a heart attack? I know of many documented cases nationwide where even this time limit was drastically exceeded. Why? Not because of laziness or disregard, but again, because the gateway that we rely upon to access public safety is woefully understaffed and broken. A recent survey revealed that 82% of 911 centers across the country lack sufficient employees. 82%! I've seen stats elsewhere that some may be down 50% or more of their staff. I don't care what profession or service you are in, no one can operate effectively on only half a staff. And no business or service is as important to the safety of your community or your family than 911. Without a properly staffed emergency communications center, every penny spent on fire, law enforcement, and emergency medical services loses value because responses are critically compromised. The two factors commonly identified as the cause of our current dilemma are stress and pay, and the stress is compounded by lack of personnel and excessive overtime. Part of the problem lies in the fact that the federal government classifies telecommunicators as clerical personnel and not members of the protective services. I'll spare you the nuances of this system, but I assure you that the level of skill, knowledge, and responsibility associated with telecommunicators far exceeds that of typical office workers. This is not in any way meant to degrade clerical staff, but their worst moments will not be replayed on carefully edited sound bites before a national audience, nor will a simple typographical error on their part get somebody killed. There have been efforts made to reassign telecommunicators to the more appropriate class, and although there is progress among the states, on the federal level, they remain secretaries. It's interesting to note that the profession most commonly compared to telecommunicators in terms of duties and responsibilities is that of air traffic controllers. However, controllers make more than twice as much as their 911 counterparts. As a retired public safety official, I recognize the value of trained professionals that answer and dispatch your calls for help on every hour of every day, and I'm hoping that you do too. That's why I'm asking you to reach out to your federal representatives and urge them to properly classify these dedicated individuals alongside other first responders. Specifically mention the 911 Saves Act and ask for their support. I'd also ask you to contact your local officials to ensure that the 911 center that serves you is fully staffed with properly trained people who receive salaries and benefits commensurate with their worth and commensurate with the worth of your family as well. Do these things as if your life depends on it, because in reality, it does.